A recovered alcoholic. My name is Pat Rogan. And thanks to the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous outlined in this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the program of AA, I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And for that, I will be forever grateful. AA didn't just save my life, but it gave me a new life. And I absolutely enjoy my life today. It's hard to believe that Annie and I were talking before the meeting. I'm going to hit 70 this month. And no. For that shit. I'm going to lie about it everywhere else. Principle's my ass. But we were talking about it. I never thought that I would even make it this far, let alone be in the health that I'm in at this particular stage. I mean, I drank and smoked everything that you could possibly put into your body. I mean, stuff that wasn't supposed to be in a pipe. I smoked. And I can't believe I can still breathe to this day. I mean, my lungs I could get checkups and my lungs are fine. And my stomach isn't tore up. And I just know how that happens. I mean, that's truly by the grace of God in this program and you guys. And I'll forget. So I want to tell you guys right now that I want to thank you for having me here. There are people in this church that I truly love. There's not many that I use that word for. Shannon knows. I use that word very sparingly. I like a lot of you a lot, but I love a handful of people. I mean, I use that word sparingly because I think it really means something when you say that. And it's deep. I don't use it for everybody, but there's a handful of people in this room that I truly love. And we're partners. We walk this thing together, shoulder to shoulder. And a lot of you know everything about me. There's a handful of you that know everything about Pat. And I don't share that with everybody. I have a pretty small circle of people that I really trust. A couple guys sitting over here, that I truly love and trust. And one sitting here, and there's a couple other you. If I miss you, sorry. So thank you. I really appreciate your friendship. I appreciate being there when I've needed you. And a lot of you have been there for a lot of years. So. I'm gonna play around with 12 and 11 here. And I think 11 is forever. There's only a few times in the book where Bill repeats himself. One is in chapter 3 with control. 5 times he uses the word control. We know that Bill is a wordsmith. We know that he's a literature major, So he confuses us sometimes because he doesn't like to repeat himself. So he uses a bunch of words that mean the same thing. And we think he means something different, but he doesn't. But there's a few cases where control, the lack of control, the ability to control, another attempt to control, he's trying to make a freaking point, He does it there, and he does it in chapter 4 with power. He repeats power 4 times. He does it in chapter 5 with honesty. He repeats honesty over and over again. And he does it again here in 10 with continue, Not maintain. Continue. To grow in understanding and effectiveness. More God. I mean, it's this incredible, I think I don't know if it's Emmett who says that there's this incredible desire for more God, that this continued improvement with our relationship with God, which is step 11, right? That to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Praying only for that. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't pray for other stuff, but step 11 is about that. What is your will for me today? And my spiritual experience, I share with you, my major experience, my white light moment, if you will, came in step 5 for me. My life changed. The obsession was lifted after my 5th step. I did it with a priest, because I don't trust you. And I didn't trust my sponsor at the time, because I don't trust anybody. I didn't trust my father, I didn't trust my mother, I didn't trust my sister, my brother, so I'm not trusting you. But I had an experience, I had an epiphany after my 5th step. And I've been wanting more of that ever since. And that has improved as I got to 6 and 7 and I started changing some of my behaviors, practicing new behaviors. And it didn't always happen overnight. I mean, I had to practice honesty, because honesty sometimes puts me in a light where I don't look good, you know, and I don't like to not look good. You know, it's important for you to like me. It's important for me to be accepted. Money's important to me. It's not the most important thing, but it's important. The material's not the most important thing, but it's important. Relationships are important. You know? So anything that affects those things, I had a hard time. I told you, I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago, where the things that were going to put me in jail were easy to let go of. The things that were going to get me arrested were easy to let go of. But the things that just made me look bad, as simple as they were, you know, just like being late for work. Why are you late? I caught the bridge. No, you didn't. You slept it. You know? But I'm not telling you I slept it, because that makes me look stupid. You know? But I would walk away with that with a new attitude. I would walk away with that with an awareness that I just lied to my boss. And that made me uncomfortable. And that conflicts me when I feel uncomfortable. And the next time I'm confronted with that same question, I probably lie again. Only it's a different lie this time. Caught traffic or something, you know? Damn it, you did it again. You know? And the third time, I didn't say anything. I just went. But I didn't lie. I didn't lie. And then eventually I thought, well, I give a shit. Well, you know, what's the big deal? Why am I lying about this? Why do I continue? Why don't I just get up early enough and make it to work on time? You know? And now I'm like, if I'm 15 minutes early, I'm on time. That's just the way I am. I don't really have to be at work at any particular time. It's good for me to be there at a particular time, but I'm there before everybody. I mean, I'm there. I leave the house like 6:30 in the morning, just so that I'm there before everybody else, and I don't have to sit in traffic or have that traffic excuse, because there is none when I go. But it takes practice, you know. And as I continue to practice that, I'm getting closer to God. As I continue this lifetime of amends, I keep getting closer to God. I would have never imagined that I would look forward to making amends. When I got here and I looked at that step, I went, you gotta be kidding me. I think I shared with you, Brian was reading the doctor's opinion to me, and I go, do I have to call the IRS? He says, Pat, you're on step 1. You know, that's 9. I said, yeah, but really. But you know, when I got to 9, I wanted that to go away. I want it to go away. What do I have to do to make that go away? What do I have to do to make this conflict go away? Because I drink over conflict. I don't do well with a conflict. I'm an emotional cripple. I might be emotionally unstable. Might be the right word. So I need to stay out of conflict, or I need a drink. And that's just the bottom line. And then when we get to 10, 11, and 12, now I get to practice this and grow in these steps. And what I start to learn is things like restraint, right? Like restraint. I think it was Peter I heard say it years ago. Somebody comes into a meeting and says, I acted out on some old behavior today. No, that was today. That's current behavior, right? That's not old behavior, right? Old behavior is something you don't do anymore. You used to do it, you don't do it anymore. But if you're still doing it, it's current. You know, so I stopped reacting. I started showing some restraint. I think the book says tongue and pen. I think thumb and send is the proper term now. Don't send the freaking text, right? At least Apple's starting to let you edit that shit, bring it back. Give you like 5 seconds to get it back, you know. At least you think you got it back anyway. But you can't unsend. You can't, once it's out there, it's out there. Don't send the email. You know, wait a minute. You know, wait a day before you send that out there. You know, don't send the text. That's what keeps me out of conflict. When that customer confronts me, I don't have to confront them. I don't have to let them take me out of my zone. I can just look at them as this book tells me to look at them as Wonder what's going on in their life that is acting them to be like that, is making them be like that. Wonder what kind of stress they're under. And what's it say after that? I wonder if there's anything I could do to help. And we start looking at life from a different angle. And so I'm eliminating a lot. I'm not saying I eliminate all of it. Because some days there's, Pat's looking for conflict some days. Unfortunately. But most days I'm trying to stay out of it. And when I do get in it, I got a step that can take me back out of it. I got a step that says, hey, did you just act out on some current behavior? Did you just act out on some defect of character? You need to ask God to help you work on this. Do you owe an amends to that customer? Do you owe an amends to that driver? You need to call your sponsor. Share this with a sponsor or a friend. And I can get back in the zone. We were I think we were talking last week that just nothing seems to last forever, though, right? Like, it's for me, I'm going to speak for myself, that good can be my worst enemy, right? Good is the enemy of the best, right? That's the saying, right? But good never seems to last for me. I've found good many times in my life, and it just doesn't seem to last because I need more. We talked about the maintenance word. That maintenance means to stay the same, unless it's a living item, and then it means to promote its growth. But there's no staying the same here. You're either growing or you're going. Progressing or regressing. There's no gressing. You're not going to be able to just stay in that spot. At least I'm not. And maybe I'm worse than most people here. But I've never been able to stay in that zone doing exactly what I did yesterday. I can't stay sober on yesterday's sobriety. I can't stay sober on yesterday's recovery. That river flowed. I got to start over again every single morning. And at night, I got to make sure my slate is clean. And if it's not, in that next morning, I got to make it clean. Because I don't know how much conflict I can take before I start to medicate. And it won't start with a drink or a drug. It'll start a sex spree or a money spree or something like that, Something else that'll take me out of that moment. But then it's back. And then I'm stuck with me again. I'm going to give you some examples of where I hit a wall, and either it was my awareness of hitting the wall that took me out of it, or somebody else's awareness of me hitting the wall that took me out of it, And usually it was somebody else saying, "What are you doing?" And I was probably in maybe my first year of recovery, a little after my first year of recovery, and the 5th chapter closed, and it moved to Lauderdale. And it left a void. I got sober at the 5th chapter club. It left a void in Lighthouse Point, Pompano. And I'm going to name the clubhouse, but me and Billy and Karen opened up this clubhouse, right? And we put our names on the lease, basically. You guys opened it, and with a lot of help, we opened it. And I was the treasurer. Of course, my name's on the lease. I'm going to be the treasurer. Right? And there were 2 signatures on the check, but I was the treasurer. I was the treasurer for almost 5 years. Somebody, in their infinite wisdom, decided to order all the bank statements from the bank and do an audit. And they brought all these bank statements to the business meeting and accused me of stealing money from the clubhouse, right? Now, it was anniversary night. My son was there. My oldest son was there. And talk about old behavior. I was pissed. I was furious. Matter of fact, if my son hadn't stopped me and stepped between me and this guy, you know who it was, and I would have punched the son of a bitch in front of my son. He would have watched his 5-year sober dad punch the crap out of this guy in front of an AA meeting, in front of a clubhouse, right? And that was it. Instead of punching him, I hit him with the checkbook. And I said, it's all yours, and I took my name off the lease and I left. Talk about a resentment. And in most cases, the resentment redirected me to where I needed to be. Right? There's always like you're either gonna hit the wall and have a breakdown or a breakthrough. Right? And so I hit the wall. And I decide to get the hell away from all you people in Pompano and Deerfield Beach. And I go find a home group out in West Boca called the Boca Boys. Okay? And I didn't share this with you guys earlier. When I did my fifth step, I left something out. I did the best I could at that time. And I'm not telling you that I'm happy about leaving something out. But I'm telling you, if I hadn't done my fifth step at all, I would have never had the experience I had in that fifth step. I would have probably gotten drunk. So I did the best I could at that time, and I tell the guys I sponsor, you do the best you can at this time, because we're going to revisit this over and over and over again. So I go out to this meeting called the Boca Boys, and this guy named Howard C. shares his story and almost shares my piece that I left out of my fist. Something very simple. And I was able to get free. It was a sex thing, kids being kids. It was one of those kind of things. Embarrassing. I was afraid to share it with a priest because I thought he would judge me. And I got to do a fifth step with Howard and get rid of it and make it go away. And Howard wasn't shocked at all. Howard shared something with me very similar that he almost shared from the podium. And Howard became my sponsor until he passed. Up until I was there almost 10 years at the Boca Boys. So I'm cruising along at the Boca Boys, right? Everything's great. I got a new sponsor. I got this great men's group that's on fire. And I can't stand the meeting anymore. Right? I am sitting in this meeting that probably saved my life at that particular time. And I am restless, irritable, and discontent. If that son of a bitch tells the dog and ketchup story one more time, I'm going to punch him. I've heard the story forever. I knew what everybody was going to share. Everybody in the home group, I knew what everybody was going to share. I knew what every story everybody was going to tell. I knew every experience that this guy was going to share. I was sick of this group. Right? My home group. Right? I'm sitting there every morning. Here goes the dog and ketchup story. And I share with Howard. Howard, I don't think I could do this anymore. And he says, patience and tolerance, 10th step. Yeah, right. So I share with Billy. And Billy hands me this prayer called the Prayer of Jabez. And he says, start praying this, see what happens. Look, I don't know how prayer works. I don't know if it changes things or it puts me in a position to change or mindset to change. Don't know. I just know that when I pray, things change. That's all I know. And I have faith in that. I have faith in it. So I start praying. And the short version of the prayer is protect me, bless me, protect me, and expand my territory. That's the short version of that prayer. And I start praying this prayer every day. So I get these people from Hollywood ask me to do a big book study in Hollywood at the Hollywood Happy Hour. And I tell them, no, I can't do that. It's my home group night. You hear what I just said? The meeting I hate. I'm not going to do it because that's the night that we meet. And I tell Billy, and Billy says, you missed the answer. God answered your prayer, and you missed it. So I told Howard, I said, look, I'm going to take this commitment. I'm going to go do 12 weeks at the Hollywood Happy Hour, and then I'll be back. That was 24 years ago. I've been back twice to hand the medallion out. By the way, to my first sponsee, who I swore I was wasting my time on, Dwayne, right? And I wonder if Dwayne's around, if he's on here. But Dwayne came in on his first DUI, hadn't lost anything, still had his business, his wife, his family, this is bullshit, this ain't. And I gave him a 27-year medallion recently. That's why you just say yes when somebody asks you to sponsor, because you just don't know. I don't know. So I leave that meeting, and what comes out of that redirection, that resentment that redirected me, what comes out of that is I get asked to speak by Brian at Xylem, right? I run into this guy, Bill Kay, who's probably on here, and Bill is looking for a sponsor, and I said, Bill, I'll sponsor. And he goes, no, that's okay. You know? Yeah, no thanks, you know. But then a week or two later, he comes back to me and asks me to sponsor. We start studying the big book in his apartment at a halfway house. I'm not going to mention halfway house, but at a treatment center, halfway house, up the street. And then other people know we're studying the big book, and Timmy starts coming in, this other guy starts coming in, and then the next thing you know, the room is full, and we're too big, so we have to move down to the gymnasium. So we get to the gymnasium gets too small, so we have to move into the office, and we start a meeting in the office where the Deerfield Beach Study Group started. And we call it the Deerfield Beach Study Group. Central Facts starts there, too. The Back to Basics, where we take people through the steps, starts there, too. You know, the By the Book meeting. So we start these groups there that has been my home group now for, I don't know, last 20 years, right? Rejection or redirection? Redirection. 5 years later. And this is why I can't stay the same, because of these moments that are put in my life, because of these, these things that reveal my recovery. I don't like to call them tests, because they're not tests. They really reveal my recovery. They tell me where I'm really at. Where's your dependence really at, Patton? You know, and I was divorced when I came in here. I got remarried at 2 years sober. I was married I was 15 years sober, and my wife wanted out of the marriage. She wanted out. She didn't want to be married to AA anymore. And that's what she was married to, in her defense. She married AA. Because I'm all in or I'm all out. I'm not for a normie. You know what I mean? I am not gonna. She had done her last gratitude freaking dinner. You know, I'm not going to any more of your picnics. You know, I'm done with this BS. You know, and I just want to smoke a joint on Friday and have a couple of drinks and watch TV. You know, you want to go to your meeting, go to your meeting. You know, and that's kind of what happened. You know, and look, the beauty of that 15 years was my sons got to be with their mother and father while they grew up. My oldest son was out of the house already. My youngest son was deployed in Iraq at the time. You know, and here I am, 15 years sober, going through a divorce. I was freaking crushed. And I think it was more me being a failure. Because I understood her point of view. I understood that a normie doesn't want to be here. They don't want to be here. They want a normal life. They want to go out Friday night, have a couple drinks and dinner and go home. Go out Saturday night, do a little dancing. It's just not me. It's just not me. I'd rather be here. I would rather be here. This is my happy place. But it's not a normie's. And I get it. But I was crushed. Absolutely crushed. You talk about wanting to run. I'm 15 years sober, and I don't want to drink. I want to run. I'm going to become a hermit up in the mountains of Pennsylvania. Right? In the Allegheny Nationals, I have my spot picked up by Millstone Creek. Right? I'm going to start in a tent. And then I'm going to build a cabin. Right? I mean, I had this thing, I had it worked out. You know, I'm out of here. I can't do this. I can't do people anymore. You know? And I'm cruising up and down A1A, just like contemplating where I'm going. And Billy calls me. And this is why, if you wonder why I call you during the day, this is why I call you. Billy said, you were on my heart. I hadn't talked to Billy. He was doing a travel team with his kids, with the baseball and all. I hadn't talked to Billy for maybe 2 years. Billy says, you were on my heart. Now, if you wonder why I call you, that's why I call you. If you wonder why I call you out of the blue, that's why. Because you came on my heart. I never ignore that anymore. I never ignore it. I'll send you a text or I'll call you. And I says, I'm fine. Yeah. Billy said, no, there's something going on. What's going on? And I told him what was going on. He said, well, we're going to pick you up tonight. we're going to take you down to see Russell. Russell knows this story. He'll be here next week, right? And I said, no, I don't do Russell. No, not Russell, you know. I said, he's like that God squad. They say Jesus and stuff in the meetings. They're violating traditions and stuff, you know. I said, I'll just stay home. And he said, no, we're coming to get you. And they take me down to the On Track. I don't know what, some group in, what was it? Dixie Highway in North Miami. Yeah. What was the name of it, John? You remember? Men on Track, right. So Russell opens the meeting like this. If you're here for the first time, if you're new and you're here for the first time, you might want to go to another meeting. Right? And you guys will hear this next week, right? Because I'm here for the guy who's 15, 20, 25 years sober, who's dying inside right now. And I went, oh my God, he's talking to me. Now, I didn't know that Russell opens a lot of meetings like that. I thought it was about me, you know. And I went up after the meeting, I said, Russell, and I was in tears. I said, Russell, you were talking to me. And he says, my specialty is guys with time in AA and are flatlining. He says, and I can see it. I can see it and I recognize it. And he says, you know, maybe you need something more than that big. I looked at him and said, yeah. Well, what do you mean? He said, well, there's other books. He says, there's even a bigger book. I'm not promoting anything here. I'm just telling you my experience, okay? I'm not. So I left there shaking my head like, yeah. And boy, continual improvement of our understanding of God. Who is God? What is God? Start asking these kind of questions. He planted a seed, right? And I'm thinking about what he's saying, still dying inside. And Peter M. comes down from Jersey to speak at the Deerfield Beach study group at the halfway house, treatment center, whatever it was at that time. And after the meeting, he spoke for our anniversary meeting. And after the meeting, him and I and Artie went to Frankie and Johnny's, where Luigi DeRoma is now, right? And we're sitting there, and me and Peter are having this philosophical debate. I say that. I was having this debate with Peter, right? Peter wasn't debating anything, right? About whether people can raise from the dead and virgins can have babies, you know, that kind of thing, you know? And he just sat there and he didn't say a word. He just looked at me like, with this look in his eyes. And he asked me, he said, Pat, I got a question for you. He says, what? I said, what? He says, did you ever think you would be 15 years sober? I said, no. He said, that's a miracle, isn't it? I said, oh, yeah. He said, so anything's possible. And I couldn't debate that. Right? Yeah, I guess anything's possible. And we were leaving the restaurant, and Russell and Peter says this: maybe you should go back to the religion of your childhood and leave for a good reason. And that hit me. And I was consumed by it. Like, why did I leave? Well, I know why I left. When I thought, I'm sober now. I'm looking at it through a different lens now. You know why I left? Because there were principles that you had to live by, to be part of, I thought, right? Like there was these gates and this fire. If you lived by the principles, you went to the gates, and if you didn't, you went to the fire. And I couldn't live up by the principles, so I'm going to the fire. So I have to deny this shit. You know, this is just bull, you know. Well, we had this purgatory thing, halfway house, I guess, where you weren't bad enough to burn or good enough to go to the gate, you went to halfway. You know? And I think people would say a prayer and you get shot up. I don't know how that works. You know? Good behavior, I don't know how that all works. But that's why I left. There's a story in the back of the book, I think it's called Window of Opportunity, where they talk about when normal people can't live up to principles, they change their behavior to meet the principles. Alcoholics lower their principles. When they can't live up to their goals, they change their behavior to meet their goal. we lower our goals. And that's exactly what I had been doing, was lowering my principles to match my behavior. And I thought, what have I got to lose? And that was Saturday night. I went to church Sunday morning. First time I had gone since I was 13, 12, since my grandmother stopped making me go. When I became such a pain in the ass that she said, okay, forget it. I'll take your brothers and sisters. I think I was 12. I threw up the God, if you're there, prayer. God, if you're real, I need you now. Help me. And I had my second spiritual experience in that church. Can't prove it to you. God proved it to me. I can't prove God to you, but it's been proven to me. And there was this peace again that came over me. And here's what came to my mind. First thing I'll never forget. What came to my mind, why would you want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with you? That's like too easy. That's like too simple. Why would you want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with you? Let her go of that. Let her go. And I was at peace. And the other thing that came on my heart is Garrett. You need to ask Garrett to sponsor you. Now, Garrett was part of the God Squad, too. You know, he was part of the other section of the God Squad. And I left that church, and I called my wife at the time, and I said, take whatever you want. I'll be fine. You know, my first divorce, I put a gun to my head. And I think I shared that with you the first week I was here. I had almost committed suicide. The second divorce was, take what you want. I'll be fine. You want the house, take it. I don't even need the money right now. Whatever you want. And I was finally, just let it go. I'll be fine. I saw Garrett that a couple days later. We met at Bonefish Max. I remember sitting at Bonefish Max. I said, Garrett, you scared the hell out of me. I said, but I need what you got. And he said, let's go. First thing he had me do was the timeline. He said, I want you to look at significant events that have taken place in your life. I want you to take 5-year increments of your life, and I want you to write down the good memories and the bad memories. And my God, did that explain why I don't trust you and why I'm afraid of cockroaches. I never knew till then. I'm not going to go over that. I have this, I'm not afraid of bugs except German cockroaches. Okay? And someday I'll tell you the story. But Garrett was my sponsor until he passed. What's it been, 3 years, 4 years? 8. Oh my God. 8 years. Took it to another level. Opened up another book. Started studying some other principles. Yeah. So what do you do when you're doing everything this book tells you to do and you're falling apart? That's all I'm asking. Where do you go? Where do you get more God? Right? I need more God than this has to offer. That's where I got. Doesn't mean you're going to get there. Doesn't mean you're there. That's where I ended up. I needed more than what this had to offer. I needed more than 83 through 88, which I was doing every single day. But I needed more than that. And I found more than that. And I love going to church. Any church, by the way. I mean, I'm a member of a church. But I love going to any church. Just like I love coming here. I get the same feeling when I walk into that I feel when I walk into here. There's just a presence. There's a peace. The outside is out there, and I'm in here. And everything is fine when I'm in here. I found so many other options now, other than a drink or a drug. Between walking into any church and feeling peace, between walking into any A meeting, I don't care if it's A, NACA, DAA, HA, I don't care what A it is. Maybe not GA. Yeah. But I feel a presence, and I feel a peace in that room. I feel that when I call my sponsees. And we're talking some 12-step here. I feel that when I call Nick. I feel that when I call Jesse. I feel that when I call any of my sponsees that are sitting here right now. I feel a peace. When they call me, when they text me, and they call me, I feel connected. And as much as I hate speaking, when I'm done speaking, it feels kind of fifth step-ish. Do you know what I mean? It feels like I've accomplished something, and hopefully I've accomplished something for God. Because let's be clear, that's what this is all about. Having had a spiritual awakening. Having found a relationship with this invisible power that we're going to call God for now, I have recovered. I've had a spiritual awakening. I have had a personality change sufficient to recover from alcoholism. I've had a personality change sufficient to recover from any problem that I face. Relationship problems, health problems, job problems, career stuff. Doesn't matter. This program has given me an answer to all of them. And that's the message. I mean, if you're new here now, the good news is you don't have to believe in anything. If you're new here, you don't have to believe in anything. You just have to believe that you don't have the power. And maybe, just maybe, you can connect to a power that we're talking about here, this invisible power that you can call whatever you want for now, that will solve your problem. You don't have to have faith. You just have to be willing to believe. You just have to say, okay, maybe. Why would you do that? Because you're going to freaking die. That's why we do that. Because I ran out of ideas. Die an alcoholic addict death or accept spiritual help. Go on to the bitter end, walking out your intolerable situation, or accept spiritual help. I decided to say, okay, maybe this will work. And I'm telling you, I can't even put into words the miracles that have taken place in my life. The most important thing in my life today, the central fact of my life today is God. That is the central fact of my life. My relationship with my wife does not exist if I don't have a relationship with God. Because I'm a taker. By nature, I'm a taker. God has just the opposite. God said, you need to sacrifice to show your love. You need to sacrifice to show your love. I read one of the things that I had posted a couple years ago in my memories today. It says that marriage is not 50-50. Divorce is 50-50. Okay? Marriage is 100%, 100%. And some days I have to be 120, and some days she has to be 120 to compensate for the 20 that I'm missing. But that's what love is. Love is sacrificing for someone and being happy about it. Giving away something to someone, like a sponsee. Giving away something and being grateful to be able to do that. That's what God wants from me. God wants me to love his children. Or her, or it. Whatever you want to call it. I'm not even sure. I never met the guy. Or girl. That's what I've been given by this program. That's the experience. That's the message that I'm carrying today. Is the message of the awakening, the message of this transformation that takes place as a result of stuff. Now, it starts with what? Let's do some basic 12-step talk, right? What's it start with? Our story. It starts with our stories. That's our most powerful, most valuable tool that we have in this program. And every one of you, as Ben would say, is a diamond. Is a diamond. I'll stop saying that. That's Ben Troxel right there. You are all diamonds. You are uniquely valuable in this program. Somebody needs to hear your story, not mine. There are people right now that did not identify with a word I said tonight. But you'll get up here, one of you will get up here at this podium, and you will share, and they will identify with you, and they will come up to you and say, I did that, I felt like that happened to me. What did you do? What did you do? How did you get this? That's our most valuable weapon, right? Our deep, dark past unlocks death and misery for the suffering addict and alcohol. How great is that? How great is it my defects become my greatest assets? right? And that's the bond we make at the beginning. We get that newcomer who walks in the door. And by the way, our book says we approach them. We don't wait for them to approach us. When somebody raises their hand saying they're new to AA, we approach them. No, it's this ego thing. Well, if they're ready, they'll come up to bullshit. Our thing says when we approach the man, we approach them with the answer. We lay the kit of spiritual tools at their feet. We tell them our story. We get them to tell their story. Did you try to quit? How'd you do? Well, I'll tell you why you didn't. It's called an obsession of the mind. Right? That's why. Because you can't see what alcohol's going to do to you anymore. All you can see is what it's going to do for you. And then what happens when you start drinking? Can you control it? Well, no. Well, let me tell you why. About this chemistry that we are chemically different. We have this allergy, the allergic reaction, this physical craving. We do what the doctor's opinion did. We tell our story in the doctor's opinion, don't we? We're restless, irritable, and discontent. We get ease and comfort from a couple of drinks. Then we go on a run, and then we come out and we apologize. And then we do that over and over and over again. And they go like this, yeah. And if they go like this, we're done. Right? We're done. Right? So cool, man. So cool. What did you do? Well, I found this power. I call it God. The book calls it God. I kind of think it's just pure energy. It's invisible. Shit, I gotta stop. And then if they say, yeah, I'm ready. What to say? If they're convinced of the three pertinent ideas, let's go. Let's get on. Let's do three. Let's start right. Let's find out the truth here. And we take them through the steps. And then it's on them. How well do they do? Well, as good as they work the steps. Right? And then we live them. That's the deal. If we don't have to deal with it, and I'll close with it. We don't have to deal with wet drunks too much anymore. We got so many tools at our disposal now. When I first came in here, we were going on 12-step calls all the time, dragging these wet guy drunks out of these bars and out of apartments and trap houses. And I just recently with Karen speaking a couple of weeks ago. I'll tell you, it was. She's speaking, and this, I'm not going to say his name, but he's a foot taller than me and 200 pounds heavier than me, right? And that's not exaggerating, right? You know what my instincts were? Boom, out of my seat, grab this guy, drag him outside. I was hoping somebody'd follow me. Nobody did. I was out there by myself with this giant who's drunk out of his freaking mind, wants to kick the meeting's ass, right? But that's what we did. That's what we did back in the day. But we have treatment centers and detoxes and stuff now that are doing most of that work for us now. But we should be ready to do that at any time. It's not convenient, but it's so rewarding. So rewarding. So thanks for letting me be here this week.